We celebrate Easter because Jesus rose on Sunday. What day of the week did Jesus die, David? Daniel, sorry.
Huh?
What day of the week did Jesus die?
Friday.
Okay, yeah. So some people, when they think about it, it's like, wait, Jesus wasn't dead for 3 days, because if he died on Friday afternoon, how could 3 days later be Sunday? But that's not how they count the time. So Friday evening counts as one day, and then Saturday, and then sometime on Sunday he is risen. Okay. Let's read the key verses. The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the law, but thanks be to God who gives us victory through our Lord Jesus Christ.
Nice.
Victory is the opposite of losing, right? Okay. So Jesus won over death. All of you guys were at the Bible study yesterday. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you guys understand / pay attention? 10 being I got it. I followed everything that was said. It made sense.
9.1.
Okay, Joshua? Huh?
8.
8. Daniel?
Like a 7.
Okay. This is the CEB, since we're going to read the passage again. I thought, why not change up the translation? And yeah, let's go sentence by sentence. I think, Naka, you can read this.
Yeah.
Can you read the first sentence?
All the way to
I'll tell you when to stop, okay?
some,
But
but someone will say, how are the deer dead
raised.
raised? What kind of body will they have when they come back?
Alright. Daniel?
Look cool.
When you put a seed into the ground, it doesn't come back to life until it dies, unless it dies.
What you put in the ground doesn't have this whole shape that it will have, but it's a bare grain of wheat or summer seed.
Okay, pay attention. I'm going to ask you to read again. Start from, where's my mouse? Start here.
God give it to this sword
Sort.
of shape that is choice. He
Chooses.
chooses and he gives each of the seeds its own shape.
All flesh is not alike.
Even so, one kind of flesh, arrows have another kind of flesh, birds have another kind of flesh, and fish have another kind.
There are heavenly bodies and earthly bodies.
The heavenly bodies have one kind of glory, and the earthly bodies have another kind of glory. Okay. Follow?
The sun,
The
sun has one kind of glory, the moon has another kind of glory, and the stars have another kind of glory, but the stars is different from another star in its glory.
It's the same with the resurrection of the dead. Our body is put into the ground, but when it's raised will ever decay.
It was degraded when it's put into the ground, but it's raised in glory.
It's weak when it's put into the ground, but it's raised in power.
It's a physical body when it's put into the ground, but it's raised as a spiritual body. Daniel, can you explain the analogy between the resurrected body and the seed / plant?
So like in the beginning, and like the seed is shown, it's like different from what is the outcome. It's like in the resurrection, like before the resurrection might be one thing, but after it might like completely change kind of thing.
Yeah. Joshua, do you remember what we said about why Paul brings up birds, fish, animals, stars? If you don't remember, you could read the passage. What is his point of bringing these things up?
They're all related to like the idea of flesh and the distinction between them.
Yes. Why is there a distinction?
There's like different things that each is characterized by. You can't just say that they're all the same.
Yes. So there's two things that are being said. One that we didn't say in the Bible study was, let me see if this translation is the same. Yeah. God gives it the sort of shape that He chooses. So when people say, well, there naturally cannot be a resurrection because a corpse can't be, that's the sort of shape that it is, but here it's God gives it the shape that He chooses. So God's the one who gives the shape to all these creatures. The other point that we made, or I made in the Bible study, was heavenly bodies require a certain shape and they have their own function. Earthly bodies have their own shape and their own function based on their sphere. So you need gills to be in the water, you need wings to be in the air. So based on your sphere, that is the kind of body you have. And then this is the more challenging question. Actually, before we get there, how is the pre-risen and risen body contrasted? Starting with, it's the same. Isaiah, you can take that question. What's the contrast?
It says that, there's three different distinctions. Yeah, there's three distinctions. So it's the dead body. The natural body.
Yeah, that's the ESV.
Is degraded, but the spiritual body is raised in glory. The natural body is also weak and physical, but the spiritual body is raised in power and spiritual.
There was one contrast you missed, the very first one after the colon. Why can't I see my cursor? Do you guys see it? Oh, okay, I see it. After the colon, the first contrast is?
What is raised one time with the king?
Yeah, so we think of the, I think some scientists try to get funds to study how to defy or how to reverse death, but the scientists didn't get enough funds. Because I think most people know that you cannot reverse death. That is, at this very moment we are all dying at different rates, of course, but that is our natural body. It is going to the ground, but that is not the case for the resurrection body. So for the case of Lazarus, for the case of the widow's son in Nain, the people who were raised when Jesus, I don't know if you guys remember this in Matthew's gospel, but when Jesus died on the cross, suddenly a bunch of people were raised from the dead, people who had recently died. But that is not technically resurrection. That is just a revival, and all of those people had only recently died. So it's not the same as Jesus' resurrection on Easter. And then the more pressing issue is the adjectives that Paul uses. In this translation it says, it's a physical body when it's put in the ground, but it's raised as a spiritual body. Unfortunately, I don't like this translation. So the reason is because, probably have a slide later, but spiritual in contrast with physical, most people think that we become like ghosts or become like angels, but spiritual body, as I've put here, means that we are ruled by and close with God, who is spirit. So you can think of spiritual as in capital S, spiritual body. And to support that, let's look at a few places where the same adjectives appear in the Bible. Daniel, can you take all these verses?
Right, including the first one.
Starting with James.
There's not the wisdom that comes from above, but is earthly, physical, demonic. It is these who cause divisions, physical people, devoid of the Spirit. The physical person does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are folly to him, and he is not he is not able to understand them because they are spiritually discerned.
Okay, so in Jude and in 1 Corinthians, the adjective is describing people, not the case in James 3. So if we look at Jude and 1 Corinthians, the one in Jude is pretty clear. People who are causing divisions, they're arguing, causing conflict, they are devoid of the Spirit. So I think you guys heard me say multiple times in a Bible study, physical means devoid of Spirit. And of course, because of the fall, because we're sinners, we see in 1 Corinthians 2:14, physical people do not accept the things of the Spirit. So there is a moral component, but that's not emphasized here. Spiritual in other letters of Paul, spiritual people, the law is spiritual gift also is referring to the Holy Spirit. Things related to the Spirit, but that doesn't mean that they are invisible or ghost-like. That's not the meaning of spirit. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so do you guys know what dualism is?
Like consciousness and stuff? Like consciousness and the mind?
It's part of it. Do you guys know who Plato is?
Yeah.
He's a Greek philosopher.
Wasn't he Aristotle's teacher?
I think I'm getting my philosophers wrong. You might be right, but I'm thinking Aristotle is. No, you're probably right. Is it me? So there are other people. Descartes is probably more important and more influential because he's closer in time to us, but Plato is at least the first to articulate body-soul dualism. And you could think of it, I mean, I'm being a little oversimplistic, but we kind of all accept a sort of Gnosticism, not because we want to, but because it's so prevalent. Like when people say, like, my body does one thing, but in my mind I'm another thing. Or my body is just a shell, my mind is trapped, my soul is trapped in my body. Or I had an out-of-body experience. Or you see all those movies where people swap bodies with someone else, like they are someone in someone else's body. That's also dualistic. Or in even science and medicine, like if you have a headache, you see a doctor, but if you have psychosis, you go to a psychologist. So even our own medical, the way that we learn medicine is that the mind is separate from the body. We need to treat it differently. That has not always been the case. And many early church fathers, they were well educated in philosophy, which meant they also were very familiar with Platonic philosophy. And so our early, so from the very beginning, early Christian tradition and interpretation has also thought that Paul thinks of a mind-body dualism. So that's why you see that translation. We have a physical body, but then we'll have a spiritual body. But there's a growing number of scholars today that say nah, that's the tradition, but that's not what the text is saying. Moving on, Joshua, you can start.
There's a physical body, there's also a spiritual body. So it is written, the first human Adam became a living person, and the last Adam became a spirit that gives life. But the physical body comes first, not the spiritual one. The spiritual body comes afterward. The first human was from earth, made from dust. The second is from heaven. Nature of person made from dust, shared by people who are made of dust. And the nature of the heavenly person is shared by heavenly people. We are more like the heavenly person in the same way that we are like the person made from dust.
Okay, in this translation, it brings out a little bit more clearly that it's not just our kind of body that is like Adam's, but also our nature. So that becomes important for one of the key verses in this passage. We will be like the heavenly person in the same way as we are like the person made from dust. Actually, I should ask you guys, because I don't know what you think. True or false? When God created Adam and Eve, they were born immortal. Like the way that God created human beings was that they could never die. True or false?
I think they were immortal.
They were immortal.
I think false.
They were mortal. You know the difference, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think false.
When you
Immortal?
read it,
Mortal.
mortal,
Immortal.
immortal. Okay. This passage is used to support the theology that Adam and Eve were made mortal. I agree with that interpretation. So, humans were basically given a life, but it is not. It is a life that can be taken away. And we read that when Jesus says concerning persecution, don't be afraid of those who can kill the body, but cannot take away your blank. And a lot of Bible translators, they do say soul. Remember the mind-soul dualism. But if you read the parallel passage in Luke, it says, do not be afraid of those who can kill the body, but can do no more. God can send you to hell. So that's actually a little different. We might assume that means that humans have minds or souls and bodies that are separate, distinct things. But the idea is that Adam and all of us are made on the condition that our bodies can die and more can be done to us. So that's how we were created. That this analogy might help. Basically, Adam and Eve were born into a probationary period. You guys know what that means? If you're on probation when you get out of prison, that means that you're not free. If you're on probation, that means that you have to see. It's kind of like you're babysitted. Like you have to see someone. They say, okay, did you make any friends today? Are these friends from prison? Are they bad people in your life? Did you commit crimes? Where did you go? What did you buy? So you're being tested. That's what probation means. You're not really free, but they're going to see what you do. So human beings were, I don't like the analogy, but it's helpful, that we were made, there was a probation, and Adam and Eve failed. And that is why we get the punishment of being mortal. And then Jesus passed the test, and all who are in Jesus also earn immortality as a reward. So there's this idea that everybody is immortal. The soul is immortal, but that's Plato, not the Bible. I don't know if that made much sense. I didn't sleep well last night. Isaiah, you can take the next paragraph.
This is what I'm saying, brothers and sisters, flesh and blood can't inherit God's kingdom. Something that rots can inherit something that doesn't decay. Listen, I'm telling you a secret, all of us won't die, but we'll all be changed in an instant, in the blink of an eye, at the final trumpet. The trumpet will blast, and the dead will be raised, and with bodies that won't decay, and we will be changed. It's necessary for his rotting body to be clothed with what can't decay, and for the body that is dying to be clothed in what can't die. And when the rotting body has been clothed in what can't decay, and the dying body has been clothed in what can't die, then this statement in scripture will happen.
Alright, this is more relevant for the early Christians who, probably because they saw the death of early followers, they might have doubted the resurrection. More relevant for us, I think, is this last paragraph. I'll read it. Death has been swallowed up by victory. Where is your victory, death? Where is your sting, death? Death's sting is sin, and the power of sin is the law. Thanks be to God, who gives us this victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. And this is more important, I think, more relevant. As a result of all this, my loved brothers and sisters, you must stand firm, unshakable, excelling in the work of the Lord as always, because you know that your labor isn't going to be for nothing in the Lord. So I mentioned in this paragraph that it's not just about what kind of body you have, but also the nature of that body. So if we have a spiritual body, that means it's a body that is ruled by the Spirit and close with the Spirit, who is God. So to have a spiritual body, then, you're going to become more like Christ. And if you believe this, we will continue in the work of the Lord as always. So, chapter 15 is super long. We're only reading starting from verses 35 to 58. Earlier in chapter 15, the Corinthians say, let's eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. So, there's this idea that it doesn't really matter what we do. A bit of fatalism. I'm guilty of it myself. When I see how things are currently and I don't see any hope, what's the point? So Paul is saying there is, Jesus has already had victory, and if we believe that, then surely we should labor, knowing that nothing that we do is in vain. God knows all of what we're doing, and if we are living as we are going to be, then we will get there. So it's very practical, believing in the resurrection. Because if you're governed by the fear of death, then it affects your decisions. Yeah. We have 30 minutes, and I was thinking in the remaining time, you guys can watch, well, not finish the lecture video, but there's a lecture on conversion. Or you can watch a lecture on the body and soul about dualism again. But yeah, up to you guys. Actually, you have 3 options. You guys can do reflection, so write or watch a lecture. Daniel?
Huh?
Write a reflection, or watch a video.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
Same as last time? Okay, Joshua?
I'm going to do a lecture.
I don't know.
You don't care?
Yeah.
You know what? This lecture is not for kids. So if you guys